Auto Break You. I'm Dr. Debbie Silber, and today's guest is AdaPia Derrico. AdaPia is a visionary leader with 20 plus years of experience across countries, cultures, and both corporate and startup environments. She's co-founded businesses, launched brands, and redefined industries. She's a respected fintech entrepreneur, executive, and evangelist who brought real estate crowdfunding mainstream. Today's topic is when your betrayal goes viral. Yikes. What do you do when 40 million people watch and then criticize your actions? Would you be able to take the amount of criticism and judgment? You're about to meet AdaPia Derrico, and you're going to love this story about speaking your truth, overcoming your fears, bouncing back, and so much more. Here's AdaPia. Okay, everybody, I have AdaPia Derrico with us today. This is going to be such an interesting story. You know, we always talk about betrayal of a family member, partner, friend, coworker, self. But what happens when your betrayal goes viral? That's what we're talking about today. So welcome, AdaPia.
Thanks, Debbie. It's such an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. So I know everybody just leaned in and they're like, what do you mean when your betrayal goes viral? You have such an interesting story. Can you share it with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all starts, let's say, when back in 2018, I got on stage in a 1,400 person theater in Los Angeles, California. And in a keynote, I told the story about leaving my first marriage. And the story wasn't, hey, this is my marriage, here's all my dirty laundry, I'm leaving it. The story was really about the way that for nearly a decade, I had lived this picture perfect life in trying to please others, trying to be what I thought they wanted me to be. I married young. There was a lot of things going on, but regardless, I didn't listen to my heart. I didn't listen to my intuition when even from the earliest days, I should have said no, or at least wait, I'm not ready yet, what have you. So I put myself in a situation of being kind of stuck and trying to make it work. And I tried to make it work for 9 years. And then eventually what happened is I just got like a lightning strike to the soul. And I realized in this like moment, just this brutal moment of awakening, like I can't be in this life anymore. And there's all these lessons that come around honoring ourselves and really learning this. So I got on stage and I told this story. Beautiful story, safe space. This audience knew what the whole thing was about. And then about 6 months later, Goalcast, the company that makes motivational videos, they found the video and they made a version in the way that they do with this beautiful imagery and music, and just, it was amazing. I was so honored. So the video comes out, and I was immediately, just from the very first comment, was just being attacked. And the video ended up it's over 40 million views today. Wow. One of their like out the gate best videos ever. Just an amazing response, 250,000 shares on Facebook, just 100,000 comments. But what happens is that in a way that the trolls got it first. And I, for about 3 months, went into such a dark place because I was getting death threats. I was getting messages on every platform, my website, just, you can imagine, you can't even imagine. I mean, you can, maybe you can. And they were so angry at me.
Well, and that's the thing. And I want to find out what happened, but yeah. What was it about what was said?
Yeah.
And people, it's so interesting. And we were sharing, but before I started recording, how I did 2 TEDx's, and I don't even read the comments anymore because people say such horrible things and just criticizing the way I look or what I was wearing, or at least criticize the content. Right. Yeah. That would make sense. But what was it about the video that had them so upset or feeling like they need to express their feelings? What was going on?
Yeah. And it was definitely the content. So I basically got up on stage and I said, my husband was a great guy. I didn't marry him for love. And then I left. That was essentially what a lot of people took away. And that made me, in their eyes, a villain, because I didn't have a good enough reason Like I wasn't abused. I wasn't like, there weren't any of the reasons that maybe historically or traditionally we think a woman needs to leave a marriage.
And I find that so interesting because I personally look at it and say, if you wake up to whatever point that you realize this is not the fit, you're not in love, you
Yeah.
don't resonate with one another, you're not doing either of you a favor by sticking around. I think it's actually admirable. So I don't even understand.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's just it, is that is a perspective that comes from understanding that people grow apart. They might not be a good fit to begin with. There's other factors at play. And like what you've given talks, when you get on stage and you give a talk, you're telling a story. There's a narrative, you're compressing information. I'm compressing 9 years into 20 minutes and not making it about blame. But interestingly, what I came to learn from all of this and where I landed was that because I didn't place blame on him, people who are maybe not as aware as you, or they're very stuck in these traditional patterns of thinking of what marriage is and promises and all this kind of stuff that really keeps people miserable if we want to really get down to it. Like I was anorexic. I had body dysmorphia. Like I tried to make myself disappear. Like I had control issues. And all of this was literally eating away at me from the inside. And there's just this misunderstanding that if we make a choice for ourselves, we're selfish. But it was really like the right thing to do because one of the two of us had to say it because we were both in a way miserable. And in reality, he's the one that said, no, I don't want to work on it anymore. But that's not what I got on stage to say. That wasn't the point. But if people don't hear the good enough reason that matches their expectation, then they'll lash out because there's got to be something inside of them that's unhealed or that's broken or that's hurt or that feels betrayed. So that projection came on me
Talk
in a
about
massive way.
judgment. Wow, that's just so okay. So here you are thinking, I'm just going to share my story, and it's just going to help whoever needs to hear that story. And even before, I want to just go back even a little bit further before we go forward. When you were in the marriage, and because there are certain, we're this is from betrayal to breakthrough, and there are so many people in a marriage and they know it's not in their best interest to stay. Some of them it's a completely new opportunity based on who they both become because of it, but in others it's not the case. What was it like? Did you start feeling differently? Did you start realizing this is not a fit? I mean, what was going on there that made you say, no, this isn't for me?
Yeah. And, it took me months and months. I actually like wrote it out. I have like a whole book written that is unpublished because it was the process that I was going through it was, I thought that this lack of like the passion that we want or that we think or that I could make it work without that because we were such great friends. And I thought that initially that would be enough. And then there was also a lot of pressure and fear. I had moved to Italy to live with him. And he asked me to marry him like a month after I moved there, which was too soon. I'm 22. It was too soon. I am scared of like, where am I going to go if I say no? Like, are you even allowed to say no? I come from an Italian family. I thought that I couldn't say no because clearly my dad had given permission, like all this cultural stuff. And so this is also like early 2000s. And I know maybe for like an audience that's like my age, like our age, like they're just like, yeah, I get it. Like you weren't allowed to say no. But for a younger audience, they're like, what do you mean? But I was in that space. So that was the initial starting point where there was a lot of things around my insecurity and also like my wanting to be there and explore, but I didn't think I could say no. And so from that point forward, I just kept trying to make it work. There wasn't the passion there. And I kept thinking there's plenty of marriages that are without passion, but they're still okay. And maybe I can make it work, but
so you're like justifying it now. You're trying to come up with, okay.
Totally trying. And he's a good person. And so I'm shaming myself, and we're like so compatible in so many other ways, but not physically and also not emotionally. As I saw over time, But it took me years it took almost until the end to realize we were replaying the same patterns that my parents had, which were not communicating. There's like so much going on. And I realized like, this is not okay. And then my intuitive body, my intuitive nature was just screaming at me, but I didn't understand that. I didn't have a connection to my intuitive nature. And so when my body went into menopause at the age of 24,
Oh, wow.
so that I couldn't have kids, because one of the big factors that was at play that was unconscious was I was being pressured to have kids. And I had said day one, I'm never having kids. It's not for me. But that is completely unacceptable in the Italian culture. And I was being pressured and pressured and pressured and pressured all the time. So in a way, psychosomatically, my body was just like, I'm going to take care of it
for you. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. So, okay. So your body was telling you, no, we know it's in your best interest. And so we'll do it for you. We're going to give you every sign letting you know that this is not a fit for you. And even though you're, culturally, it's going against everything that you've been raised to believe. So then it was probably a big, scary statement to say, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore.
Oh, it was so hard. Like I can still feel like the nervousness, because it meant leaving everything I had built for 9 years. And it meant the thing that made it the hardest wasn't even about me. It was about how many people I was going to hurt. And we didn't have kids. So, and I think if we had kids, I'd still be in it, to be perfectly honest. I'd probably still be in it. And what kept me there a little bit was also like our dog. I mean, it's so funny how like I rationalized so many things for years in one way. And also just, I didn't want to disappoint anyone. And I literally thought my dad was going to kill me. I thought he would not be okay with this. I was going to hurt to dozens of people of this life that I had built there, people I loved so much. And I still loved my husband, but just not in the way that we deserved, either of us or both of us. And so, yeah, it still comes up to think about.
It's so interesting. This is so common, where we just do things that don't feel good, that don't feel right, that are not in our best interest, or what just feels right for us at the time, because of other people.
Yeah.
So then who's running our lives, right? And it's when we realize, wait a second, this is my life. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm also trying to create the life that's meant for me, and the unique path that I'm meant to travel. So, okay. So bring us up to speed. So you let your husband know this isn't a fit. And what happened after that?
Yeah. So basically, like I was able to, well, first of all, I really got broken down. Like I call it like a lightning strike to the soul, because it was this massive breakdown where I felt my whole self implode and clarity come through. And the day after this happened and I realized what it was. I realized it was the kids thing. I mean, at that point I was 32. So I realized it was 31. It was the kids. And so we would go on these walks on Sunday, and it took me so long. I just remember I was walking and walking and walking. I had to build up the courage, and I said, I can't have kids. I will not. I can't have kids. I can't do it. I won't do it. And he said, well, that's a deal breaker. And that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it. We'd like talked about it a little more, but there was nothing more to say. It was this elephant in the room, and it had been there for years.
Yeah.
And so that's why I couldn't tell a story about blaming anyone. There's no blame. There's no victim. There's no villain. There's human beings that were both trying their best, and everyone around them, and not wanting to hurt. But we were. So anyway, that's what happened.
And I can see that this is something that maybe he thought, over time, I'll wear her down. I'll get her to change her mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen this in so many different, from so many different angles. I'll never forget a million years ago when I started my business, and there was a woman who, and I remember every visit we had. Here she was young. She desperately wanted kids. He clearly said from the very beginning that he did not. And she was spending years and years trying to get him to change his mind. And now from her perspective, she's not getting any younger. She has a certain window of, where she's able to get pregnant. And she just kept thinking, well, I'll get him to change his mind. And it just seemed like, how is that going to work? Because even if he does, it's because he feels pressured, or it's not what he originally wanted to do. So it's such you could really see how when one wants kids and the other doesn't, wow, that could be a deal breaker for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could feel a level of resentment that was due to this pressure. I hate being pressured. I hate being told what to do, especially if I've made it pretty clear that this is what it's going to be. But, in a marriage, in an ecosystem of a marriage, you can't, it's not just about what you want. And so all the narratives that we run in our head, but at a certain point, at least for me, it was a breaking point. It was a very strong breaking point. And it was amicable because we were not blaming each other about it. We were both really hurt. I actually left 3 weeks later. I went back to Canada because the crux of it too was that I was so worried about telling my dad. And when I told him, he said, "AdaPia, just come home. You're unhappy. You've never been happy. And your happiness matters. So you need to come home," which
was probably right. Exactly what you wanted to hear, what you were so afraid you wouldn't hear.
Exactly. And it wasn't what I expected, because I almost thought like, you're not my father. Like, this is not the person, and so the stories that we build up about others, and I went home. And then, about a year or so later, I met the love of my life, and I'm married to him, and we've been together now almost 9 years. And that is the love and the passion that I was wanting and seeking. So when I made the statement on stage, I didn't marry for love, it's not that I didn't love him. It's that this was the love that I had in my heart, in my mind, that I wanted. And my heart knew at the time this wasn't, this is a defining moment. You're going to say yes, or you're going to say no. It's going to turn two different outcomes. And I don't regret any of it. Right. But it is about, when we talk about betrayal, so much of it for me is like, am I betraying myself? And that's a primary query for me in everything that I do is, if I feel pressured around like, performance of some kind, like, oh, I want this person to see me in a certain way, but it's not aligned with who I truly am. I'm betraying myself, and I betrayed my heart for years, and I refuse to betray my heart anymore. I'm very connected to it now, and I make decisions from the heart space, and it's never been wrong.
Absolutely. Terrific. So now let's go back to the talk. You deliver the talk and you're like, wow, okay, I just shared my message to all those people. What did it feel like when you started getting that kind of response? And tell us what happened.
On stage, I got a standing ovation, and it was so healing. It was incredible, really incredible, moving. When the video came out and I started getting all this like basically hate mail from everywhere, it traumatized me. And it was a moment or period of time of great growth for me through darkness, because everything that everyone was saying about how horrible I was, how selfish, and worse, so much worse, are all things I had said to myself. And in the process, because as I was processing this darkness and this, what I would consider like the broken human heart, I had a lot of compassion for the people that were attacking me, because it wasn't really about me, but I did take it personally. And once I started absorbing it, it was so much that I actually didn't know how to set an energetic boundary anymore, because it just was like a tidal wave. And so I thought I would never speak again. I thought I would never write again. I had a blog, I had a podcast. I was like, I can't, anything that I say, there's going to be somebody that's going to take issue with it. And that's the truth. And I had to learn the lesson around honor yourself. Is I have to honor myself and keep saying what I need to say, irrespective of whether somebody's going to continue to attack me, because that's their issue.
Right. And it always, it's never just one thing. The mind and body are so exquisitely connected. So
Yeah.
here you were getting bombarded. How did it show itself mentally, emotionally,
Oh my goodness.
physically?
Yeah. So it completely overtook me. I shut down. I absolutely shut down, and I went in probably like close to depression. I remember just having days where I would just cry and cry and cry and cry. And I reached out to people, and that was really helpful because I heard from people in my network that they were like, oh, I got attacked all the time. And then that started to just was like, hold on a second, who attacked you, first of all? Because then that part of me just started to come forward. And then I started to piece together that it really wasn't about me, and that it happens all the time, and that it's not okay. But it was this initial outreach to a network of people because I'm so supported, and I had to learn to ask for help, which is one of my biggest lessons in life, period. Still today, all the time, is asking for help, accepting support. And over time, I started to come out of it. But the healing moment was about 6 months later. I rewatched the Goalcast video, and I hadn't watched it since the first time I watched it because I was too afraid. Just the thought of it would make my whole body clench. My heart would clench. My energy centers would clench. I just couldn't, like, head in the sand, ostrich, head in the sand. And I rewatched it, and it was like it was nerve wracking when I hit play, and I'm shaking, and I'm watching this video, and then it ends. And I thought, I didn't do anything wrong. And in that moment, a very powerful, sublime, subtle moment, I forgave myself.
Yeah.
And it was over.
Yeah. Beautiful. And a few things that you said. First of all, it's like I have one of my mentors said, until you get the hate messages, you're not on the map. So it's almost like that's a sign of, okay, you're making an impact. And clearly when you make an impact, it's not going to resonate with everybody. And I know in the world of betrayal, I can say something and someone, I mean, they will just come after me because that's not their perspective or how they'd handle it. And that's okay. The message is for the people who need the message that I'm trying to share. So that's one thing. And then the support. That is so crucial. And you know what's so beautiful about that? That you reached out for support and it was just something that you knew would help you. And we find in the betrayal community, at a time where we need it the most, we're the least likely to seek it because there's so much shame, so much embarrassment. And meanwhile, here we are struggling and suffering in silence. But when you get that support, you realize you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you feel held. And that is just absolutely crucial to healing. And I'm sure that's why you started healing the way you did. So then you saw the video. It was scary, but you saw it. You realized, I'm good. And you forgave yourself. What did that lead to? What happened after that?
After that, I recommitted to the speaking, to what I guess you could term transformational speaking. And I had really deep conversations with Goalcast because they felt bad. They had never had that kind of initial out the gate response to what they thought was one of their most powerful videos ever. And they actually showed me the statistics, and they said 1,000 to 1, the statistics are positive. And I realized, oh, I've been focusing on the wrong thing. But it also was this emotional journey that I had to go through to clear. So I recommitted to speaking. I wrote a book, and the book really is about honoring ourselves and finding inner authority and everything that I've learned about it. And I recommitted to myself, and I just found a different level of strength. And interestingly, Goalcast will every once in a while, they will reissue videos. And they did a while later, and I didn't get a single negative comment.
Wow. It's almost like you needed to go through that to work through whatever you needed to. And now lesson learned, you don't need to go through it again.
Yeah.
And, it's so interesting too. what you said about the 1,000, we can get 1,000 positive comments, and then there's that one negative one, and which one do
Yeah.
we focus on? I know when I've spoken a bunch of times, it'll be those reviews that they just hand out right there to see, they want to get a sense of how that speaker was. And I always want to know, because if there's something I could change or do better or whatever. And
Yeah.
sure enough, it could be like, oh, great job, this, that. And then there's that one person who's like, oh, she spoke too fast, or she, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And why is it that we focus on that one? And that's that negativity bias,
Yes.
So there's so much that I'm sure was meant to be done for you.
Yes.
Like the lessons that you learned from going through a painful experience. And that's one of the very reasons why some people are so unwilling to put themselves out there in the first place, for that exact reason, what you experienced.
Yeah.
So you moved through it, and you said, okay, however this message is going to be received, it's my message to share.
Yeah.
What did it lead to? I mean, how do you feel now when you're presenting, when you're sharing a message?
So it really led to just a lot of the self-doubt and like extra like leftover shame and different things to work through. And it left space and centeredness, so that no matter what I do, because professionally I work in the investment industry, but this was a part of me that wanted to give back. I felt compelled to tell the story, and there's not a rational linear reason for it. It's just my way of giving back as well. And I find that what I learned was that telling my story healed me, and it healed others, because I also received hundreds of messages saying thank you, messages from women in every country in the world saying, I thought I was the only one who felt this way. I'm in so much shame. I'm in the same situation. Thank you for speaking your truth. And that was another big, massive realization of where am I placing my focus? Is it on the negative Nancy's, or is it on some hope and some courage that whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not even my story anymore. And so now when I go out, it's really this level, and people tell me all the time that my vulnerability is so authentic that it inspires them. It like cracks their ego, because they're like, how does this woman show up and speak the way she does? And it opens them. Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I think it's beautiful.
Well, vulnerability is strength, because it's so much easier to show up as that speaker who seems so polished and so perfect, and I have it all together. But when I see a speaker like that, I don't trust. I mean, my trust, meters go crazy, because it's no one's that perfect. Show me how you screwed up. Show me how you got there. Then I believe you. Yeah, absolutely. Was there any process or things that you did? Because as we move through, our trauma to transformation, we kind of create our own recipe of what works. Some people meditate, some journal, some, use like the chakras, whatever. What was it for you? Was there one thing you did, or many things? I know support was a big one. Was there anything else?
So a lot of things. So, everything ranging from energy work to emotional release to subconscious reprogramming with something called Psych K. You've probably heard about it.
I would love you to explain that to the audience.
Oh, okay. So Psych K is a method that's facilitated that takes you, basically, it puts your brain into a whole brain state. It merges the left and the right, and you reprogram a negative belief. You rewrite it as something positive. And through these very simple, and you can see me, so people watching, like you put your hands together and you cross your legs in a certain way. It's facilitated. It's fascinating. But you take a limiting belief and you rewrite it to be empowering. And you go through this very quick, using your body. You put yourself in like a body lock, and you repeat this new statement. And because the body locks actually tell your brain to work in a holistic manner, is my understanding of the science of it, you have these really interesting experiences inside, and you feel a shift. And you've reprogrammed your unconscious, subconscious. and it's all in the body. We just don't know how to use the body. So it's this like mind body method, and it's extremely powerful. It's an amazing method. That's what Psyche is.
Yeah, the body knows. Body's brilliant. You mentioned other energy work. Was there something specific there?
So I do a lot of meditating, just any kind of visualization around centering practices. But the most powerful, which is still energy work, was um, story as a healing modality, which is something I actually personally work with now, and I offer as a master class, because when I started going through preparing the speech, I had to go back into my story. I had to go back into what I call a defining moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to relive it. And so there is a method that I developed over time. And that's where I wrote the like 100,000 words of a book that I might not ever publish. That really might not be it. But by going back, I excavated all of it, and I was able to see myself more clearly. So it's like a form of story as a healing modality, writing. And you don't have to be a writer to do it. I love to write.
Mm-hmm.
But we extract the gift, we extract the lesson, we extract the power that is held hostage by one view of what happened in the past, which science even shows us that memory is fallible. That and in any case, what happened at that time, the way you remember it that one time, isn't necessarily the way it really happened. And when you get to go back into it, you realize that you're healing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different way of reprogramming. So that's my main method.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And there's actually there's a powerful process that we do in our community. It's called the coherent narrative, and it's legitimate. I mean, it really is so powerful because it has you take what had become your life story and turn it into a pivotal chapter of your story. And I believe, because I remember learning about this when I was doing my own study, and Pennebaker, I think, was the name. If you look up Pennebaker, that was the researcher who did the studies around how powerful story is and what it could do
Oh,
for you.
amazing.
Yeah, I don't know the
Oh,
first name, but I remember Pennebaker was the last name. Absolutely. So is there anything you want to make sure all the listeners and viewers know before we wrap it up?
I really want them to know that no matter what life gives them, that it's you can overcome anything, any challenge. It's meant to be transmuted into strength. That's what it is. And I've been through numerous challenges. That's my path. And then I tell the story of this is one story. But if I can do it, and I'm really not that special, right? I'm not a guru. I'm not enlightened. But if I can do it, anyone can make it through. We're not given anything that we can't handle. And on the other side of it is our growth. And that's what I really want people to know for themselves. If they can take away anything, it's that they can just, you can do it, trust yourself. And if you can, like, trust yourself, as in trust your heart, and trust what it's telling you, because that's your power right there.
Terrific. Beautiful. And where do we go to learn more about you and the beautiful work you do?
Oh, yeah. So thank you. So you can find more about me at adapiaderico.com. That's my website. And then you'll see on there some of my projects, including the book, Productive Intuition, and then this masterclass called Writing the Self. And it's all there. So and my name is pretty easy to find. So I'm always willing to connect with people. You just write in AdaPia and I will pop up. All the handles are mine. So if people want to connect, I'm more than happy to.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I want to thank you so much for everybody who has their story or who's staying in a relationship and they know it's not in their best interest. It's not good for their soul, their heart, whatever. You definitely shared lots of insight and wisdom today. So I want to thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Debbie.
It's so interesting how the judgment, fear of criticism from others can have us denying our truth and betraying ourselves. In AdaPia's case, staying in an unhappy marriage because she was so afraid of disappointing her family, then stopping her writing and speaking because of fear she'd be judged so harshly again. Well, she's back, so stay in touch with her by going to adapiaderico.com, and we'll have all of her information in the show notes at thepbtinstitute.com/podcast. Here's my biggest biggest takeaway. Betraying ourselves is just as bad as getting betrayed by others. It's so important to stay true to who we are, and we don't help anyone when we ignore our needs and betray our hearts. Of course, when we do, we'll need to find a way out of it, which AdaPia did through meditation, energy work, Psych K, visualization, and story. Find what's right for you, and if we can help, meet us in the PBT community where we have everything you'd ever need to become your physical, mental, emotional best. Community, support, certified coaches and practitioners you could schedule time with, daily classes on all kinds of interesting topics, curated experts teaching advanced strategies in the areas of health and mindset, spirituality, personal development. Imagine the most friendly, welcoming, and supportive place to become your best. And it's all online. Nothing like this exists, and I am so excited to welcome you. Just go to thepbtinstitute.com/join to learn more. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to be with you next time, and here's to your breakthrough.